Every Monday morning, as the clock struck 9, I logged into my banking app and initiated the transfer. $500, a clean, round number that felt less like financial support and more like a recurring subscription fee. A subscription to a fragile manufactured piece. For years, this digital ritual was as much a part of my weekly routine as making coffee or packing my daughter's lunchbox. It was the price of admission to a family that had long since revoked my membership, the cost of keeping their disapproval at a manageable, distant hum rather than a deafening roar. The day I finally stopped hitting confirm was the day my parents, with a cruelty so casual it took my breath away, simply erased my child from their reality. I didn't wire that money because I had it to spare. The arithmetic of our lives was a tight, tense equation of overtime shifts, discounted groceries, and prayers that the car would pass inspection. The money I sent them came directly from the column marked Ava's Future or Emergency Fund, or more often than not, my own quiet desperation. I sent it because the alternative, the ringing silence, the pointed questions from my brother about my priorities, the icy void where parental warmth should have been, terrified me more than any mounting credit card bill. Debt was a number on a screen. Their disapproval was a climate in which I struggled to breathe. Every Tuesday morning when the notification popped up, transfer completed, I felt a fleeting, fragile hope. Maybe this week, this act of usefulness would be the bridge. Maybe it would make me lovable to them again. Perhaps the next call wouldn't be a demand, but a thank you. An inquiry about how I was. A question about Ava. I constructed elaborate narratives for myself, mental life rafts to keep from drowning in the absurdity of it all. "This is temporary," I'd whisper into the dark after a long shift. "Just until they get back on their feet. Just until mom's health improves. Just until dad's business picks up. Just until the raw edges of our past conflicts soften with time and this tangible proof of my contrition." I was perpetually waiting for a just until that never arrived, forever feeling like the family problem, the inconvenient equation, the daughter whose greatest sin was building a life they didn't approve of, with a child they chose to treat as a footnote. But time didn't soften anything. Resentment, when fed a steady diet of money and compliance, doesn't mellow. It hardens, it petrifies. It becomes a fossil record of every slight, real or imagined, and my weekly payments were the sedimentary layers preserving it all. The dynamic didn't evolve. It calcified into a permanent, grotesque structure. I was the banker, the crisis manager, the emotional and financial utility. They were the perpetual petitioners, their need a constant, their gratitude a foreign currency. My life, she perched on the edge of the picnic bench, a single, uneaten cupcake with a sad, drooping candle in front of her. The last of the sunlight gilded her hair, but her posture was slumped. She stared down our quiet suburban street as if sheer force of will could materialize a car, a figure, a sign. I stood in the kitchen doorway, watching her, and I smiled. I smiled the wide, reassuring smile of a mother who is trying to be a fortress. And as I smiled, something deep within my core, some final load-bearing wall of denial or desperate faith, cracked with an almost audible, clean, and definitive snap. That night, after I had cleaned the wreckage of the party and Ava was asleep, exhausted from the emotional whiplash of the day, I did what we all do in the modern age. I scrolled through the photos on my phone. I was trying to perform a kind of emotional alchemy, to convince myself through visual evidence that the day had been a success. See? Look at her smile as she blew out the candles. Look at her joy in the bounce house. The narrative was there, in vibrant pixels. And then I saw it. A notification had slipped in amidst the pictures, a text message. From my father, it contained a single sentence, no greeting, no punctuation, no emoji, no warmth, just 5 words, typed and sent with what I imagined was profound irritation at the obligation. "Tell Ava happy birthday." That was it. No, "We're sorry we missed it." No, "We'll make it up to her." No, "Hope she had a great day." Just a perfunctory dispatch, a delegation of duty. Tell her. As if her joy were a memo to be passed along, not a shared experience. The coldness of it was a physical shock. I read the 5 words over and over as if they might rearrange themselves into something humane. They didn't. A dangerous, foolish part of me wanted an excuse. I craved a lie I could believe, a narrative with even a shred of warmth to tape over the yawning, cold silence of that text. So I did the thing I knew I shouldn't. I called. The phone rang, and just as I was about to hang up, my father answered. His hello was not a greeting. It was an accusation, a sigh of profound inconvenience, as if I had interrupted a state affair. Swallowing the rock in my throat, I asked. My voice sounded strangely calm, alien to my own ears. Dad, hey, we missed you guys today. Ava was really hoping you'd make it. Is everything okay? The pause on the other end of the line was not a pause of reflection or regret. It was long, heavy, and deliberate. A pause meant to make me feel the weight of my own impertinence for asking. I could hear the faint sound of a television in the background. Then his voice came through, clear, flat, and utterly devoid of emotion. Your child, he said, as if referring to a stray animal, doesn't matter to us. There was no heat in it, no raised voice, no dramatic cruelty. It was worse than that. It was simple, clean dismissal, an administrative decree. The erasure was now verbal, absolute. The world didn't go dark. It went hollow. All sound was sucked out of the room, replaced by a high-pitched internal ringing. I didn't cry out. I didn't argue. I didn't fall to my knees and beg them to see her, to see me. The finality of it was so complete, so bone-deep, that it bypassed all the stages of grief and landed directly in a cold, clear void. I simply stood there, the phone pressed to my ear, listening to the dead silence after the sentence, as if the device itself might crackle to life and say, "Just kidding, we're on our way." It didn't. A click. The line went dead. He had hung up. I walked numb to Ava's room. She was asleep, one arm flung over her stuffed bunny, her breathing deep and even. I smoothed her hair, kissed the warm, smooth plane of her forehead, and whispered into the dark the words that were my new scripture, the truth I would build our lives upon. You are enough. You are everything. You are loved beyond measure. I was giving her the words no one had ever given me. Back in the kitchen, in the cool silence, habit was a powerful ghost. My body moved on autopilot. Phone unlocked, banking app icon tapped. My thumb hovered over the scheduled transfer for the coming Monday. The familiar path of least resistance yawned before me. Just confirm, and the silence would be maintained. The conflict would be postponed. But this time, I looked from the glowing screen to the dark hallway leading to my daughter's room. The ghost of her hope, so visibly crushed that afternoon, stood between me and the button. I stopped. For the first time in years, I interrupted the ritual. I didn't just pause it, I dismantled it. I navigated to the scheduled transfers and deleted the one for Monday. Then I went back, further back, and deleted the recurring template. I scrolled through past transactions and one by one, I canceled every automated future payment I had set up for them. Each click of cancel, each confirmation of delete, felt like the snipping of a taut, invisible string. A string that had been tied around my wrist, my heart, my bank account for most of my adult life. With every cancellation, a phantom tension released. My hands, which had shook violently with the first few taps, grew steadier. By the last one, they were calm. 40 minutes later, my phone buzzed on the counter. Not a call, a text, from my mother. It read, "Can you order us dinner?" The usual place. I stared at the message. That's how long it took. 40 minutes, not days, not weeks. 40 minutes for the machinery of their dependency to seize up and send out an alert. The silence had been broken, not with concern, not with an inquiry about my abrupt financial severance, but with a demand. Their first and only signal that something had changed was their own unmet need. No apology for the day before. No acknowledgement of the cataclysmic sentence spoken by my father. No, "Is everything all right?" Just hunger, literal and metaphorical. I picked up the phone. I didn't type a reply. I didn't explain my decision. I simply turned the device over, screen down on the cool laminate of the counter, and I walked away. I walked to the living room, sat on the couch in the dark, and listened to the profound, terrifying quiet of my own house. In that moment, I learned the most valuable lesson of my life. Silence doesn't always mean surrender. Sometimes, when you are the one who chooses it, when you are the one who imposes it, silence is a boundary. It is a wall. It is a moat. It is the most powerful word you never have to say aloud. No. The next morning, the kitchen was flooded with sunlight. It was a brilliantly ordinary Tuesday. The world had not ended, but something inside me had reconfigured itself. My chest felt different, lighter, as if a sack of stones had been removed. Emptier, because the hope I'd carried for their love was finally truly gone, and stronger, because the space it left was already filling with a new, steely resolve. The silence I had created held for a surprisingly short time. It was a dam, and the pressure on the other side was immense. The first crack came with a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was their landlord, his voice a mix of confusion and annoyance. My parents had given him my number as a backup contact. The rent was late. He was just checking in. I politely informed him I was no longer involved in their financial affairs and wished him a good day. Then my brother called, his tone aggrieved and accusatory. "What's going on? Mom and Dad are saying you've cut them off, after everything they've done for you?" The old script, the familiar guilt. This time, I didn't recite my lines. I simply said, "This is between me and them," and ended the call. Then the internet erupted. My parents, masters of the passive-aggressive maneuver, had decided to go nuclear. They went live on a popular social media platform, the one where they cultivated a small following of relatives and old neighbors with pictures of sunsets and conservative memes. This time, they staged a performance. Sitting side by side on their floral couch, they hit go live and rewrote our history in real time. My mother managed to produce tears on command, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. My father wore an expression of grave disappointment. They spoke of sacrifice, of unappreciated generosity, of a daughter who had changed and was now punishing them. They painted a picture of benevolent parents cruelly abandoned. And then, my father, perhaps emboldened by the sympathetic comments already rolling in, decided to double down. He looked directly into the camera, his face a mask of wounded pride, and said it again for the whole digital world to hear. "She's using her child as a weapon. That child. She doesn't exist to us, not after this." He had taken the private, soul-killing sentence and broadcast it. He had weaponized the erasure. The reaction was not what they expected. The swift, brutal, unforgiving court of public opinion convened in their comments section. Strangers, parents, and grandparents themselves expressed horror. Did he just say his grandchild doesn't exist to him? What kind of monster says that? You're crying because the ATM shut down. The wave of outrage was immediate and visceral. Their performative victimhood had backfired spectacularly. They had shown the world not a wounded heart, but a rotten core. I watched the clip, sent to me by a horrified cousin. A strange, profound calm settled over me. I didn't comment. I didn't make my own post. I didn't defend myself or my daughter. I realized with crystal clarity that truth doesn't require a defense. It simply is. Their own words in their own voices were all the defense we would ever need. Consequences, real and tangible, began to stack up with a speed that was almost biblical. The landlord, perhaps having seen the viral clip or simply tired of the drama, began formal eviction proceedings. Invitations to family events on that side dried up. Old friends who had heard their side for years now heard the sentence and quietly stepped back, their silence a judgment. The very silence they had wielded as a weapon against me, the withholding of approval, of contact, of love, was now turned outward. The community was withholding its support, its belief, its sympathy. They were being erased entry by entry from the social ledger. A week after the birthday, I took Ava to the park. It was a dazzling spring afternoon. She ran ahead, her blue jacket flying behind her like a cape. She commandeered the bucket of chalk and began drawing elaborate constellations of stars on the warm pavement. As she drew, she named them. "This one is for Sarah from my party," she said, coloring a star yellow. "This big one is for you, Mommy." She didn't name a star for the grandparents who lived far away. Their orbit had simply quietly disappeared from her universe. She laughed, a pure, unfettered sound, and her joy was a tangible force in the air. That joy, so fierce and bright, had no idea of the battle that had been waged in its name. It didn't know it had been defended with silence and fortified by a hard-won no. It just was. And that, I thought, was the greatest victory of all. That night, after her bath and stories, as I sat alone with the quiet, the realization came. It wasn't a thunderclap of insight, but a slow, settling truth, as definitive as the sunset. Love without respect isn't love at all. It is control. It is a transaction. It is a leash. The weekly transfers, the desperate hope for a kind word, the acceptance of crumbs, it was all part of a currency exchange where I paid in money and dignity for the counterfeit coin of their conditional approval. What I had called love for them was really fear. What they had called love for me was really ownership. I had stopped paying for peace. Now I had started actively protecting it. I was no longer a supplicant at their altar. I was the guardian at the gate of my own life and my daughter's. If you have ever stood at a similar crossroads, if you have ever had to walk away from family, from a partner, from a friendship to save your child, or to salvage your own soul, know this. Choosing peace is not an act of cruelty. It is the ultimate act of bravery. It is choosing a quiet, authentic reality over a loud, poisonous fantasy. It is believing your own eyes, your own heart, over the distorted narrative of those who would diminish you. And sometimes, the quietest choice you ever make, the unspoken no, the deleted transfer, the turned back, echoes with a sound louder than any scream reverberating through the chambers of your life and clearing space for a joy that is real, a love that is respectful, and a peace that is finally and irrevocably your own.